Look, I'll be real with you, Shin Megami Tensei If is the worst SMT game I have ever played. Bold claim, I know. If I happen to make myself clear, I don't particularly enjoy playing the SNES titles. Their gameplay hasn't aged well, and while there are interesting plot elements I feel are at least worth, let's say, looking up a Let's Play or something, the stories can feel dragged out or not utilize everything to the full potential to deliver something better. I had hoped after 2 games, If would be the point where things would actually start improving. As you could tell with this video, that turned out to be so damn wrong. I also decided to look at this game since the team that worked on If are also now working on a new game called Monarch, which will no doubt get more just like Persona stuff. I'm sure that game will be good since while SMT If is bad, there is a gigantic gap in the console generation, and game design as a whole has improved over these years, barring some exceptions to screw us over. For those unaware, this also served as the inspiration for Persona apparently, even kinda sorta the first in the series, mostly due to how the main character of If would later appear in the Snow Queen quest in the first game. And this is the first SMT game where the player character could actually be a girl based on your choice, and hell, Persona actually uses the female character. If you were hoping for more details, sorry, I never beat that route. I will, however, if we ever beat the Patreon goal for the first 3 Persona games, though for now, that's all the relative knowledge I can share regarding continuity. For Persona, that is. While this game is extremely light on story, there is a manga adaptation using the male protagonist and Yumi for it. They even made a sequel manga called Kan, which seemed to just have the events of the first game happen to the heroes of If. Despite the whole point of If being, what if the events of SMT 1 and 2 never happened, or something along those lines. There wasn't too much translated to English, so I don't know where else it goes. Then again, it's not like it matters. You get maybe a few cute references in this game, and that's about it. Our story starts off with some weird head asking who we are, and this time we can choose our gender, which is only important for being able to equip certain stuff. I personally recommend getting a guy since girls have kinda crappy weapons for a while. They also ask a series of questions, which will determine your starting stats. Also, don't judge me for keeping the money. Would you trust the law? These games have always been telling me to be a rebel. Afterwards, we are dropped into our school life for about 10 seconds before we are pulled into the Expanse. For those unaware, the Expanse, also known as the Demon World of Makai, it could be traveled to in the second game, where Lucifer kept his followers. All of this is pinned on one dude who taunts you at the very beginning of the game, Hazama. And get used to this space, he'll keep taunting you in every single dungeon. And you know, with just that description alone, maybe I should just put a picture of this Hazama instead. Don't expect a whole lot of details about him right away. Afterwards, you get to walk around the school and can choose your partner for the rest of the game. Yumi is the first one, who wants to put a stop to Hazama ASAP to save everyone. Next is Charlie, a dumbass and a coward who can't let go of his junk. He just wants to get the hell out, and despite saying how he wants to do things solo, he seems awfully eager to join the protagonist. Finally, there's Reiko, who seems to know the most about Hazama, and she's the one I chose. Basically, your character serves an alignment in their own way, law, chaos, and neutral respectively. Yumi and Reiko are basically the same, with Reiko having more content due to spoilers. Charlie, though, is a waste of space. He is a coward, remains a coward, and while he does get a unique dungeon, it's not really worth playing with this idiot. Beating the game also unlocks the 4th character, Akira, whose journey is much different than the other 3 protagonists. Basically a true chaos route, though he lacks a tough final boss. Basically with him, you play for the journey rather than the destination. Still, why not give Yumi a chance? Well, despite being a Shirakawa, she's not related to Shu, so that was an instant red flag. Also because this game is just not designed well enough to warrant multiple playthroughs. The first problem will be noticeable almost right away: demon recruitment. You may not be able to get many good demons at first, at least not until Sloth.
God damn it, I hate you.
The issue is that the game feels a tad overstuffed with dark demons, which, while good for Magnetite, makes demon recruitment slim. Plus, these guys don't like sticking around, even more than usual, so it did take me an hour to get what I wanted. Now, because of this limitation, I had to rely on fusions much more, so until Sloth I had to grind to get what I wanted. This led me to relying a lot more on elemental demons. See, if you fuse 2 demons of the same race, you get what's called an elemental, and these usually either upgrade a demon class to the next level, or in some cases take it back down and make it weaker. However, If never seemed to do the latter, unless I just got lucky with my demon races. So by the time I did make it to the world of Sloth to get more demons, I was able to raise a damn good army. Just, you know, I had to grind a bit. So, okay, a bit of a problem, but hey, it fixed itself later. Then the alignment comes in and screws everything up. Now, these no longer affect the ending. Instead, it affects what you can summon. For example, use too many law demons, or a single one really, and chaos demons won't come out and join the fray. Also works the other way too, and it's freaking annoying, pushing me to use neutral demons more and more. Okay, that's extremely annoying, but hey, my army consisted mostly of neutral demons. It can't get any worse, right? Spoilers, it gets worse. For now, I have to talk about the Guardians.
What a bunch of a-holes.
Instead of personas, characters can gain a Guardian upon dying. These give different stat boosts to your character and are necessary to survive in the Expanse. Apparently a demon is perfectly fine in just helping some humans instead of munching on them. A pity about these poor saps who were turned into zombies. Since death is necessary to get stronger Guardians, you won't really get a game over, so progress won't be lost at all. You just get booted back to the beginning of the dungeon. The issue is that dying isn't enough. There's a meter only viewable by pressing X on the status screen. If it's too low upon death, you'll get the worst Guardian, ones that look ugly and decrease some stats. This is the worst in early game since you are going to consistently get killed since magic hits like a truck. For Tamaki, it's manageable since she has no magic. Someone like Reiko though is kinda screwed since a Guardian determines what spells she can use. And even if I did power through the game on these crappy Guardians, I would eventually have to die on purpose to get something better. Though the real freaking issue is how some Guardians only boost certain stats. Like this one boosts my magic mostly, and okay, what good is this going to do for me as someone who can't use magic? And I already did a rant about these stats in the last game, not doing it again. Then there's the actual gameplay. Mostly the same as 2, damage seems to be scaled back, so magic actually felt useful, until later then all my attacks felt useless without buffs. Fights are longer and it's not just because of the damage numbers. Now, allies in the back row need either a gun or magic to attack enemies, which makes fights drag out even longer. So if you're wondering why I'm using only 4 demons at times, now you know, especially as magic became kinda worthless. Most demons were better off being emergency punchers or healers. So overall, there's really not much of an improvement. If anything, it went backwards in design. I suppose my mages or weaker demons are protected a bit more, but that's about it, and even then, magic isn't totally the best thing ever. Enemies don't seem to have this rule either, so I don't get why this was done. Now, there is no world map. There are just worlds based on the 7 deadly sins, except for lust because I don't know. Look, it likely would have just been a dungeon with a bunch of demons that either charmed me or lowered my level like in game 1. I'm not gonna complain. Then again, one could argue it was mixed in with envy due to a certain part later, though maybe an extra dungeon could have helped them better balance things. See, pride and gluttony are honestly straightforward. The latter is a bit annoying later, but nothing that makes him feel miserable or anything, barring certain gameplay mechanics. It's when we get to Sloth that things turn from okay-ish to downright awful. Sloth, in terms of traversal, is probably the simplest dungeon in the game. Just a bunch of hallways, and hey, this is where I can finally recruit demons and build my army. Just one tiny little problem. I can't beat this level until the game tells me to. See, in this dungeon, Hazama is forcing all the students to dig for the ring needed to traverse for the next world. The person who does so will be granted freedom, supposedly. Remember, Hazama is a dick, and if he literally designed all these levels, he deserves to have Akira rip his spine out from his asshole. Now, you can help 2 people dig as they are nearly dead. I assume you need a high strength stat at least. For the rest, nah, let them dig for several cycles of the moon. Roughly 6 times you gotta watch the moon fall, rise, fall again, and my patience was truly tested here. Now to be fair, I did my research before actually playing this game, so I just decided to grind and build up my army. Good thing I did too, as it made the next dungeon easy. The problem was that even after thinking I was done, it just kept going and going and going and going, and went on like that for 3 more hours, until I nearly just quit and canceled the review. Ignoring the trauma this all caused me, why the flying hell would the heroes of the story just let students dig out the ring, unwillingly doing so by the way, and nearly kill themselves like this? Seriously, neither Reiko nor Tamaki are doing a damn thing.
Do something! Do something! Do something!
After that was Envy, in which Reiko demonstrates one of her few character traits. Horny over good-looking dudes. Okay, she's under the effect of a spell or something. I barely remember or care. This is definitely a complex dungeon, but after going through nothing but hallways like I was replaying Final Fantasy XIII, I just learned to appreciate some things. Combine that with already having an army ready to kick some ass, it really wasn't that difficult. Maybe at the bosses, but there's an item at the casino I could buy called Rasta Candy, which is just luster candy from SMT4, but itemized. that makes things far more manageable by acting as a super buff. And really, the level design as a whole felt like something I would find in the other SMT games. That being said, if I didn't have my maps, this would still be annoying. But again, nothing I haven't really dealt with before. And now, we get to greed. I quit this part not because of the boss. I understood the gimmick and knew not to grab any treasure so he wouldn't be powered up. No, my issue was the sudden difficulty spike. As soon as I made it past the town and the dungeon, making sure to buy new stuff, the game suddenly expected me to grind for 10 levels because these enemies they're just walls. All their HP is huge and have next to no weaknesses, and given these low damage numbers, you can guess how well I was doing. But you know what? I pressed on, beat the boss, tried desperately to go back to the town since there's no teleportation spell as far as I know, and find the same room afterwards, and then the game crashed. Yeah, much like all the other games, I've been using a physical copy all this time, and had to go back to the Retron 5. Suffice to say, just use an emulator. I assume you guys are smart enough to do that by default, but this thing should only be considered for collecting, not for playing. If it weren't for me backing up saves on an SD card thanks to the Retron 5, I would have lost my mind, for all my save data would have been wiped just like with Maso Kaishin. But is that the only reason? No. See, when I say this game has bad design choices, it goes beyond just difficulty. There are barely any save points. For some odd reason, even in towns, they are not available, which you think would be a no-brainer. Then we have the Guardian system, which if I die now, I get a crappy Guardian and back to square one and getting something good. Add on to all of that, a story that's just nearly non-existent, and I don't want to play anymore. It's not like I didn't try and think of a strategy either. There is a way for me to beat this game. By using the Retron 5 save states, I could just create my own save point, and hopefully any crashes won't ruin my progress or affect that. At the very least, not by much. From there, I can grind not only for levels, but for Guardians too. That way, if this bar turns red, and if I'm at a sufficient level, I can get one of the rarer Guardians. Afterwards, I can then go back to the Dungeon of Envy, grab the Hino Kagatsuchi, which can only be drawn if the user possesses a rare Guardian, and unless my demon roster is pure awful, I don't have to worry about much else in the game beyond Hazama. So, why didn't I just do that? Well, on top of there still being bad design present to the point that I have to basically cheat in order to beat it, this means another long-ass grinding session similar to the one in Sloth. And I know there's gonna be more due to demons being level 50 and beyond in the final parts. And while I've said this before, I feel a need to say it again and make it a bit more specific. I want to review and cover what I like, period. And not to mention, I have a gigantic backlog of games that I want to finish, that I want to cover, that I want to talk about. So, look, I know SMT videos do really damn well on my channel for some bizarre reason despite all the insults and everything. But the problem is, if a game doesn't meet me halfway, if it doesn't at least interest me, then I'm not going to finish it, let alone play it. And sadly, this is the case for SNT If. And technically Megami Tensei 1, though I'm gonna give the second one at least a college try. I did Xenosaga 2 to fully understand the series and make up for a mistake I did with another video. I did the other SMT games because at least their plots made me curious about the origin of the series. My point is that I felt there was some kind of value to those games that make it worth covering. Granted, I'm not saying SMT 1 and 2 are worth playing, but they are worth researching at least. SMT If lacks such worth, despite my hopes in finding it. I would be better off covering the rest of the Persona series, and I won't even do that without the help from Patreon. It's why even playing on an emulator is pointless. I'm just gonna be miserable. But let's at least talk about Hazama so this video at least has like some kind of worth. If you care about what I think anyway. In Reiko's route, you get to fight the final form of Hazama by diving into his mind. I also want to point out his health is about 30k, nearly twice as much as God in game 2. So yeah, Hazama is stronger than God, I guess. The important takeaway from all this is seeing why Hazama turned out this way. It's about what you expect, with kids making fun of him, wanting to be loved and rejected by the nurse because this is in Persona 5, etc. The more interesting bit is the divorce going on, as both he and Reiko were separated from one another. He cares deeply about his mom and wishes she would just return. We don't know much about the details about the divorce, but one could easily assume maybe the father is neglectful or abusive. Some have called this moment heartwarming. I, however, have a slightly different opinion.
Oh my god, I don't care!
Okay, maybe that's a bit too harsh, but you get my point, right? Having this all put at the end of the game, much like with Akechi, doesn't make me care. Yeah, it sucks for him. Dealing with the divorce and kids picking on you is more relatable. The problem is that we don't exactly see it beforehand. And Hazama has a perfect excuse to talk about all of this stuff, maybe ranting at Tamaki about all his issues. He has no problem taunting us via statues after all. However, there's another way to fix this. Give Reiko more of a character. Help me see why she wants to save Hazama, instead of killing the guy like at the end of Yumi and Akira's routes. She's his sister, and hell, you think there would be more interactions between the two given how much he loves her. You can have moments similar to Yumi's routes, but maybe interact with more characters, have her express opinions you may disagree with, etc. Making this about multiple people was probably the worst decision for this game, especially when Reiko and Yumi's routes are barely different. Doubly so when Charlie just runs away from Hazama. At least with Akira, it has a bunch of new stuff and all with kick-ass fight music. It barely even tries, cramming in all the interesting story stuff towards the end. Simply having a sad backstory isn't enough for me. I want to see how this affects the characters. I want to see the effects it has on the story. And most of all, I want to care. So anyway, Reiko decides to stay in the mind of Hazama as he's dying so he won't be alone, reminiscing with Tamaki as she tries to escape. The one neat thing I found was how in order to escape the Expanse, Tamaki had to sacrifice everything, including her demons. And the shocking thing is seeing the demons actually being friendly and loyal, hoping to meet her again. It makes me wish she participated more in the Persona games as an actual party member. Maybe the first game does do more with her than I expect, though I have my doubts it's anything I would have liked to see happen. If anything, I would recommend playing this on an emulator with a speed up feature. Much as I like having physical copies, this one just doesn't cut it for me, though the box art is pretty nice. But even then, I doubt you'll find that much. Then again, you have to remember these videos are just my opinion, nothing more. If this sounds like your cup of tea, try it out. Hell, I've listened to bad reviews of games and I played them anyway. And in some cases, I actually like them. It's really the only way to be sure with video games. I just think I don't have to say it every damn time I make a video. Anyway, special thanks to my Patreon supporters for helping me out with this particular video. Seriously, your support means a lot, especially during these stressful times where I can barely make anything. Next time, again, I barely know. I picked up If on a whim and I was just really curious about it. But still, I'm the smartest moron. Thank you for watching.